name is Ms. Goodmanson, and I am currently an art education student here at NDSU. And today, we're going to be looking at
Middle Ages to the Renaissance.
Before we begin, we're going to look at our art of the day. On the screen, you will see Adoration of the Magi, painted by Leonardo da Vinci in 1481. Please take out your notebook and a pencil, and you're going to respond to 2 reflection questions that are on the screen. The first question being, what do you think the story is behind this piece? And the second one, what do you notice that seems unique or unusual about it? All right, welcome back. Now let's go into a little background about the painting. This scene shows the 3 wise men visiting baby Jesus. Leonardo was commissioned by monks of the Church of San Donato in Florence. He began the painting, but never finished it because he moved to Milan in 1482. Even though the work is incomplete, it is still amazing and in its complexity, showing that even though artwork isn't fully finished, it can still be pretty cool. Next, let's talk about what major events that brought the medieval era to an end and opened the door for a new era, the Renaissance.
One of the first catalysts to the Renaissance was the Black Plague, as seen here in this painting titled Saint Sebastian Interceding for the Plague-Stricken, painted by Jos the Franks. Black Death, also known as the Great Morality, was a devastating pandemic that struck Europe and Asia in the 14th century. The Black Death had a profound impact on European society, leading to a population decline, economic upheaval, and social changes. It is estimated that between 30% and 60% of the European population died. The next pivotal thing that led to the beginning of the Renaissance was the end of the 100-Year War, as pictured here in this painting titled The Battle of Crécy. The 100-Year War took place between 1337 and 1453, and it was a prolonged conflict between England and France, mainly over territorial disputes and claims to the French throne. The war ultimately resulted in the expulsion of the English from most of France, solidifying French national identity and altering the course of European history.
These major shifts created the perfect conditions for the Renaissance. So, what is the Renaissance? Let's look at the biggest ideas that emerged.
First idea was humanism, the belief that humans, their abilities, and their achievements matter. People began studying classical Greek and Roman texts again.
And of course, Italy played a major role. Cities like Florence became centers of art, wealth, trade, and creativity. And perhaps one of the most important things, the invention of the printing press. Invented by Johann Gutenberg in the mid-1400s. This made books cheaper, faster, and easier to produce, and easier to access. This was huge for spreading new ideas. Now, it's your turn to step into history.
Imagine you are living in 1450, and you've just heard word about this amazing new invention, the printing press. It's going to change everything. More books, more ideas, and more learning. There's going to be no more copying mistakes from tired hands. For the first time, people from different countries are going to read the same book or pamphlet. And since books are no longer luxury items for the wealthy, more people are going to learn how to read. After hearing word about this amazing new invention, you're going to write a letter to a family or friend describing what the invention is, why it's important, and how it will change your everyday life. Use the language of the time. A word bank and an example letter will be on the screen. You have 10 minutes. Pause the video.
Now that the 10 minutes is up, turn to the people that are at your table or around you and share your letter with them.
Moving on to our next section, we are going to be looking at the differences between medieval art and Renaissance art. The first example we're going to be looking at is Cimabue's Santa Trina Madonna and Child Enthroned. You will notice that the space is mostly flat with only slight attempts at depth. Their bodies and faces are elongated, symmetrical, and idealized. They're not meant to look like real people. The purpose was to represent holy figures with dignity and perfection. This next painting is titled Madonna of the Goldfinch by Raphael. This painting shows naturalism and realism, Unlike medieval art, Raphael paints Mary, Jesus, and John the Baptist as natural, human, and soft-looking figures. The scene has a clear foreground, middle ground, and background, unlike the medieval painting that we just saw. To help you get familiar with the two different art styles, we're going to do an activity. I am going to show a painting on the board, and depending what art style you think it is, I want you to raise your hand. Okay, let's take a few seconds to look at this painting and recognize its key features. If you think this painting is an example of medieval art, raise your hand. If you think this painting is an example of Renaissance art, raise your hand. This painting is an example of Renaissance art, because notice how it shows depth and natural human features. Okay, for this next painting, let's take a few seconds and pause and look at its key features, just like the one before. Okay, if you think this art is medieval, raise your hand. If you think this art is Renaissance, raise your hand. This is an example of medieval art, because notice how there is not a lot of depth and the figures in it are not realistic. This is a painting I'm sure most of us are familiar with. Raise your hand if you think this is an example of a medieval painting. Now raise your hand if you think this is an example of a Renaissance painting. This is an example of a Renaissance painting.
All right, that's all that I have for you today. I would like you to take out a piece of notebook paper and write down 3 key facts that you learned from today. All right,